everything you watch, read, and hear from the station happen. I'm Martinez. Donate your unwanted vehicle to this station, and the next time you're scrolling through stories in the coffee shop, you can blurt out, "Hey, my car did that," to the surprise of everyone sitting around you. Here's how.
Go to radioiq.org and click the vehicle donation banner at the top of the page.
In 2017, Republicans passed a massive tax cut. Now they're poised to extend them.
My plan is to make the Trump tax cuts permanent. They are massive tax cuts, biggest ever, permanent, and to cut taxes even more.
We'll take a look at what really happened after 2017, the winners and losers in Trump's tax cuts. That's on the next On Point.
On Point, weekday evenings at 7 on Radio IQ.
Funding for Here and Now comes from Olin College of Engineering, a hands-on, human-centered engineering education where the world is their workshop. Olin students experiment, take risks, and collaborate to design, build, and help transform the way people live. Olin.edu. And the Music Emporium, guitar sellers for more than 50 years, celebrating the enduring presence of music made on the front porch and center stage. You can learn more at themusicemporium.com.
It's Here and Now. The Philippine National Police have arrested Filipino ex-President Rodrigo Duterte. The International Criminal Court issued a warrant for crimes against humanity for the thousands killed in a drug war Duterte waged across his political career. He's charged with using the state to issue kill orders for alleged death squads. Duterte, a former prosecutor, frequently used violent rhetoric. Here he is speaking to Rappler in 2015 before he became president.
When I said I'll stop criminality, I'll stop criminality. And if I have to kill you, I will kill you, personally.
For the latest, we're joined by Sui Lee Wee, Southeast Asia Bureau Chief for the New York Times. Sui Lee, welcome to Here and Now.
Thank you, Deepa.
So the arrest just happened earlier today. Can you walk us through the details of the charges against Duterte?
Yes, so he was charged by the International Criminal Court for Crimes Against Humanity of murder. They've said that these crimes were committed under the time when he was mayor of Davao and when he was president of the Philippines.
Tell us where a trial would take place. Is he being extradited from the Philippines?
Yeah, so he was arrested upon arrival from a flight from Hong Kong. We know now that he's bound for The Hague, where he will make an initial appearance before a judge and then face a hearing. As for when that hearing will be, we aren't sure yet. It could take anywhere from 2 months to 2 years. So it could be a long time before any justice is due.
Duterte has bragged about the brutal way he cracked down on drugs. How much evidence would a court have to convict him?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, his public pronouncements were there for everyone to see. Just looking at the ICC warrant itself, it relied a lot on what he said, what he directed the police to do. And the amount of evidence that I think the court has is pretty overwhelming in terms of the thousands of victims that they've documented and the relatives that they've spoken to.
Now, we know that he was popular in the Philippines because he did crack down on drug dealers. He also cracked down on drug users and children. Remind us exactly what he did when he was president.
Well, even before he became president, he pledged to kill drug users. He thought that they were holding back the Philippines, and so he called on the police to basically wage a campaign against them. Right after he took office, they killed defenseless men and boys on the streets.
And from what I remember too, Sui Lee, they would leave the bodies in the streets for people to see. It was a very brutal everyday reality for Filipinos, right?
Yeah, that's right. This was a common occurrence, and very early on in the administration, people knew that they had to hide behind doors because they talked about a kill list, and to have your name on the list would mean that you could end up as a lifeless body on the street, and everyone was terrified of that reality.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, he has many supporters, but there were also people, human rights groups, the families of those who were killed or abducted, who were outraged at the time. They didn't think they'd see any kind of justice. But we do know, Sweely, that the Philippines does not recognize the ICC. What's going to happen here? Can he still be held accountable?
Yeah, so it is interesting. When Duterte was president, he withdrew the Philippines from the ICC once he had heard that the court was investigating him. But in this case, the Philippine government has made it clear that this ICC warrant could be what they've said coursed through Interpol, which means that Interpol will enter and make the Philippines cooperate with them. And they've said that they would have no qualms cooperating with Interpol. So even though the Philippines is no longer a member of the ICC says these crimes were committed when the Philippines was still a member of the court. And so that still makes Mr. Duterte criminally liable.
And add to that a Filipino senator and Duterte ally has just filed a petition with the country's Supreme Court questioning the arrest. Does this signify some kind of long legal battle?
The people I've spoken to don't think so, because they've said that the Philippines would have to cooperate with the Interpol. I think a lot of the people in Duterte's camp feel that they have to do something to stop this, but I don't think this will change the reality for Mr. Duterte anytime soon.
And have you heard anything from, people in the Philippines? You've covered this a long time. What's the reaction there?
Well, for the thousands of the relatives of the victims, there's been jubilation. Rights groups say that 30,000 people have been killed, but only a handful of people, I think 8 police officers have been convicted. And so this is a day that they're still struggling to process, to be honest.
Sui Lee, Southeast Asia Bureau Chief for the New York Times. Sui Lee, thank you so much.
Thank you, Deepa.
And here and now.
All who desire to stand for a moment of silence or personal prayer and to remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you and amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good afternoon and welcome to our meeting for March 11th, 2025. Regular meetings are held on the second and fourth Tuesday at 2 p.m. Public hearings are held at 6 p.m. on the fourth Tuesday of each month. Deviations from this schedule will be announced. The meetings are broadcast live on RVTV Channel 3 and will be rebroadcast on Friday at 7 p.m. and on Sunday from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. Board of Supervisors meetings can also be viewed online through Roanoke County's website at www.roanokecountyva.gov. Individuals who require assistance or special arrangements to participate in or attend Board of Supervisors meeting should contact the clerk of the board at 540-772-2005, at least 48 hours in advance. Please turn all your cell phones off or place them on silence. We move to item A, opening ceremonies. Number 1, roll call. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mrs. Hooker.
Here.
Mr. North.
Here.
Mr. Mahoney.
Here.
Mrs. Shepherd.
Here.
Mr. Radford.
Here. Item B, request to postpone, add to, change the order of agenda items. Are there any requests to postpone, add to, or change the order of the agenda items, fellow board members?
No, sir.
Mr. Kaywood.
No changes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Lubick.
No changes, sir.
All right, we move to item C, proclamations, resolutions, recognitions, and awards. Item 1, proclamation declaring March as American Red Cross Month in the County of Roanoke. We have here Jacqueline Grant, Executive Director of American Red Cross. Please come forward, and I'm going to come down and join you at the podium. Okay. How you doing? Clerk, can you please call the, or give us read the proclamation?
Bear with me, I forgot to make a big copy.
Do you want this one?
No, sir, I'm good. Proclamation declaring the month of March as American Red Cross Month in the County of Roanoke. Whereas March is American Red Cross Month, a special time to recognize and thank our heroes, those who volunteer, donate blood, take life-saving courses, or provide financial donations to support an organization whose mission is to help those in need. And whereas we would like to remember those who all help all of us here in Roanoke County by giving their time to help their neighbor and thank our heroes, our volunteers, blood donors, class takers, and financial supporters who help us assist those in need. Whereas in Roanoke County, the Red Cross works tirelessly through its employees and volunteers to help when disaster strikes. When someone needs life-saving blood or the comfort of a helping hand, it provides 24-hour support to members of the military, veterans, and their families, and provide training in CPR, aquatic safety, and first aid. And whereas across the country, the American Red Cross responds to nearly 70,000 disasters a year. It provides some 400,000 services to military members, veterans, and civilians, collects and distributes about 40% of the nation's blood supply, and trains more than 7 million people in first aid, water safety, and other life-saving skills every year. Whereas our community depends on the American Red Cross, which relies on donations of time, money, and blood to fulfill its humanitarian mission. Despite these challenging economic times, the American Red Cross continues to offer help and comfort to those in need. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Supervisors of Roanoke County, Virginia, do hereby proclaim and recognize the month of March 2025 as American Red Cross Month throughout the County of Roanoke. And further, by this proclamation, we give notice to our citizens to celebrate the important role the American Red Cross plays in our society and encourage the citizens of Roanoke County to support this organization and its noble humanitarian mission.
Thank you. Board, do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chair.
Good. Second?
Second.
Okay. Clerk, Call the roll.
Mrs. Hooker,
Yes.
Mr. North,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd,
Yes.
Mr. Radford.
Yes. Any comments from the board? Ms. Grant, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, I'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors for recognizing our mission at the American Red Cross. We are here in every neighborhood of every county, and we thank you for recognizing us this month.
Yeah, I can remember growing up high school, we were doing blood drives in high school, so we started at an early age. So very, very worthy. I mean, we're always in need. If anybody's had surgery, you're always going to need some blood with surgery. So we thank you so much for coming here. We're going to get a couple of pictures, I think,
Okay.
up here in the front. Right here. All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. We now move to item D, briefing by the Roanoke Regional Partnership. John Hull, Executive Director of the Roanoke Regional Partnership. Welcome, Mr. Hull.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Supervisors. Again, I am John Hull, Executive Director of the Roanoke Regional Partnership, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to present the Partnership's 2024 Annual Report. First, I'd like to share some background for context. The organization was founded in 1983 as a public and private partnership with the mission of attracting jobs and investment. Later on, we added new residents as well. Half the organization's budget is private sector in nature, half is public, so every public dollar is leveraged with at least one private dollar. And the public funding is set according to a per capita rate of contribution. It's $2.07 per capita, which has not changed in, I think, going on about 17 years now. The organization's budget is $1.6 million. The Roanoke Outside Foundation adds about another $700,000 to that amount, which goes to fund the placemaking strategy. And that outfit is self-funding and very entrepreneurial in nature. We have 10 staff. The Partnership's board is 33 members large and includes a chief elected and a chief administrative official of every local government, along with private sector members. And the executive committee is 17 members large, which includes the chief administrative official and a requisite number of private sector leaders. The partnership is home also, as we've pointed out, to the Roanoke Outside Foundation and the Get to Know Noke Foundation, which provides additional private resources to our mission. We'll talk a little bit more about the four-part strategy and how those organizations plug in a minute. Our service area is on the map. The partnership serves 8 local governments, which make up the Roanoke metropolitan area, in addition to the I-64 corridor through the Allegheny Highlands, all with the goal of growing the economy, attracting jobs, attracting new business investment, attracting new residents, and we work on a daily basis with your staff. We really think of us as an extension of your team, Mr. Kaywood, Mr. Blunt, Ms. Baker, the Economic Development Director, and her team, and also Alan Hayes, the Parks and Recreation and Tourism Department. We do interface with them quite regularly, and you have a great team. We're really honored to be an extension of your team. The partnership worked with leadership and stakeholders to produce its strategic plan, Thrive 2027. The partnership works to grow the regional economy by attracting jobs and investment, supporting innovation, and we work with the governments and private sector on real estate strategies to accommodate that growth in those projects. The partnership supports talent attraction and project-based employer recruitment, in addition to marketing the region as a great place to live. And finally, the placemaking and livability work. I will report today on all of these areas as it relates to our work in 2024. First, economic impact. So last year's activities, and by that I mean the successful project announcements, represent $265 million of new economic impact, new economic activity for the region. It is important that we remember labor and commerce do not stop at municipal or county lines. So workers at the projects that we'll celebrate in a minute live throughout the area, shop and eat throughout the area, and work across those lines as well. So this activity supports growth at other businesses, retail and dining activities, supports additional passenger air service. New wages equal more commercial activity throughout the region. To conduct our work and to arrive at announced project success, the partnership works to generate new business opportunities, conversations with consultants and industry that bloom into competitive projects, and then ultimately into success. 527 opportunities, and over 20% of those bloomed into mid to final stage projects. That's a record, and our projects are double the pre-pandemic times. So truly, the opportunity is greater now in the region than it has been in quite some time, if ever. Partnership and its local partners announced 7 new investments last year, including, of course, the expansion of MAC. So kudos to you and congrats to you for bringing that across the finish line. The regional total is 390 jobs and around $162 million of new capital investment, new equipment, improvements to buildings, and so forth. One of the smallest projects on this list is actually one of the more exciting ones from a potential standpoint, and that's Tiny Cargo, which is the first manufacturer to spin out of the Fralin Biomedical Research Institute. And that portends to a big, bright future in the biotech sphere, really not only for the city of Roanoke, but for the entire region. So that's really exciting. In our strategic plan, the partnership strategic plan, goals are set for employment creation and investment. With 2 years remaining out of a 5-year plan, 2 years to go, the partnership is nearly 80% to its employment goal and 142% of its capital investment goal. Kudos again to our local partners, including Roanoke County, in being competitive in landing opportunities. Projects like Wells Fargo, for instance, that have really contributed to this success. It is my belief that the partnership and its local government partners will exceed these goals before 2027. So it's a really exciting time for the region. We have really a great momentum moving into the next strategic planning cycle. Speaking of momentum, many may not be aware, but job growth last year in the Roanoke metro region between August of 23 and August of 24, with employment growth of 2.2%, was actually faster than the rate of employment growth in Northern Virginia, the state of Virginia overall, or the nation. And so again, the momentum is at a high level for growth. Another really fascinating point here is that between 2019 and 2023, the region accounted for 50% of the traded sector manufacturing industry employment growth, the growth in employment in manufacturing on a net basis in Virginia. So again, the partnership activities and the activities of our local partners are making a difference, and we're contributing to new wealth generating projects and industry growth. The partnership is charged with telling the story and generating opportunities, and video is an important and powerful tool in today's marketing landscape. Video is statistically shown to be more likely to generate additional looks and web traffic, and later on some conversions to conversations and projects. 3 videos were produced last year regarding business investment, innovation, and talent livability. And they're already contributing to our marketing growth. 2 new sites were refreshed, or Roanoke.org was refreshed, and Get to Know Noke was basically a brand new build of a site to maximize impact. And web traffic is up, it's responding positively. Unique views are up, social traffic is up, and our email list signups are all growing. In the placemaking and livability sphere, brand building events including Go Fest, Blue Ridge Marathon, the Go Cross, are all boosting the region and our beautiful centers of recreation like Explore Park, with $5.4 million of economic impact regionally. Really excited that we had the opportunity to expand Go Fest to Explore Park last year. And we hope to continue that leg of the festival moving forward. I think it was very successful, so kudos to you and your team on that. This $5.4 million, I should point out, is direct spending of those and the participant, those visitors. Does not include any sort of estimate of brand visibility or marketing value, which is substantial but difficult to value. These events are financially self-supporting, again, a very entrepreneurial in approach, and the proceeds from these events are being reinvested in outdoor programming. Of course, I've mentioned that the mission of the partnership has expanded since its creation in 1983 to the attraction of new residents. And that was really driven by the leadership of the private sector leadership, the likes of Dr. Ed Murphy of Carillion, and Mike Pace of Gentry Lock, who were on the board of the partnership 15, 20 years ago, and challenged the organization to grow the population so the industry has the opportunity to expand. And the initial 1.0 version of that town attraction was Roanoke Outside, and of course we've iterated on that through Get to Know Noke. But we're seeing some substantial success, particularly since the pandemic, this region is in attracting new residents. It is a very attractive place to live, and migration numbers, according to Moody's Analytics and the IRS, show that there has been substantial growth. In fact, migration is projected to be nearly 3 times that of 2020, that being new residents moving into the region. And our core of talent ambassadors are doing their part. 26 ambassadors last year led 5 pop-up events throughout the region, meeting with recruits from regional companies, starring in recruitment videos and collateral, making appearance in media, and of course creating social media content. This group is a volunteer group, and they're proud and excited to be doing the work of telling the story of the region, so kudos to them. Last year, we hosted a regional talent summit with leaders of higher education, governments, and private employers, all convening at Roanoke College to talk about challenges and to discuss solutions. Lots of good working relationships made, ideas took root. 261 attendees last year, with 40% representing the private sector, more than 40%. Business has bought in, and there was a strong level of private participation. This event continues this year at Radford University on March 13th. Part of our talent work is encouraging regional business to host internships. And last year, the partnership hosted 3 interns. Of course, we also lead the onboard ROA program for young professionals and interns, new entrants to the market who are looking to connect with a cohort their age while engaging in professional development and fun outdoor activities. A 43% increase of participation from last year with 46 participants. We have a goal to grow the program to over 100 in the coming years. So this is a young and exciting program. But the partnership, I want to leave you with the idea, brings the regional approach, a private sector speed of project management, leverage of regional and private sector resources to the mission of economic development. As a region, we are stronger than ever together. 8 governments located in close proximity, making up a functional economic region. It is more important than ever that this region, our governments, our private sector, continues to work together to develop opportunity. These results are not possible without regionalism and coordination. And this growth just isn't possible without your investment and your partnership in the effort. So I thank you sincerely. You're incredible partners, and we thank you so much for your leadership. I'm joined also by Pete Eshelman, our Senior Director of Creative Strategies, and so if you have questions for either he or I, we would be happy to address them.
Yeah, any fellow board members wish to comment?
Yeah, I'd like to comment. John, always good to see you and always good to hear your report, which is always a positive delivery as well as information. And I just want everyone to know that this organization is important when on a Friday you're asked what's the economic impact of expanding the airport, and on Monday we had a number that was given to Governor Youngkin. And so without your effort, we couldn't have satisfied that request working through the regional commission, which is another organization. So I just want you to know that we respect your organization and we appreciate everything you bring to the table, economically speaking, but also information-wise when we need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor North.
Just one quick comment. I know at the beginning of your presentation, you said you were commenting on our great team, and we agree. We do have a great team, and appreciate your teamwork together. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hooker.
And let me close, John. Pete, welcome. Welcome back, and keep that outside stuff going. We like that. And so thankful that we got Explore Park involved. Maybe we can send a little to Green Hill one day. You never know, but keep it going. We like that outdoor recreation. And again, I agree with Ms. Hooker. You guys have a great team, and you kind of pull it all together. And quick action like Mr. North said on the airport information. So keep it going, and have a good year.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
We now move to item E, first reading of ordinance. Ordinance authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $46,560,000 general obligation school bonds. I just wanted y'all to hear that number. Of the County of Roanoke, Virginia, to be sold through the Virginia Public School Authority. Laurie Dearhart, our Director of Finance and Management Services. Welcome, Ms. Gerhart.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Today, I present the ordinance for your approval, which authorizes the issuance of $46,560,000 in bonds. These bonds are part of the financing strategy for the new Roanoke County Career and Technology Center and was included in the fiscal year 25 through 34 capital improvement program and is also outlined in the Memorandum of Understanding between the county and the schools as amended on August 6, 2024. The proposed structure of the bonds are general obligation bonds through the Virginia Public School Authority as part of their upcoming spring issuance with a term to maturity not to exceed 21 years. This is the maximum amount of the VPSA bonds to be issued for this project. The actual amount of the bonds the county issues will depend on interest rate conditions in the marketplace at the time of the bond sale. Staff recommends approval of the first reading of the ordinance and scheduling the second reading for March 25th, 2025.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance and to schedule the second reading for March 25th, 2025?
Motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes, sir. Ms. Gerhardt, in reading the material you submitted to us, I know that there's an estimate that the interest rate would be 5.5%. I know that that depends on what the market is talking about when the spring sale occurs. And it is a 20-year bond. And now, refresh my recollection, do we need a public hearing on this, or?
We do, and we'll have that public hearing along with the second reading on March 25th.
Okay.
And that has been scheduled and noticed in the paper.
The only other comment is for my fellow board members. When you look at this, and this is this is good. This is what we agreed to. This is what has to happen. We have been pushing for the new CTE for many years. This is great. But I just want to remind everybody, when you look at item J2, our debt report, that's on page 107 of our agenda, when you put this amount, $46.560 million, plus another $75 million for 3 literary loan funds, we're getting up to $260, $270 million in debt, and we are currently at 155?
Including bond premiums, yes, sir.
So just being a canary in the mine shaft, just reminding my colleagues, we're running up the credit card. Thank you, sir.
Okay, and we still have good credit rating.
Yes.
Currently, yes, sir.
Currently.
Banks
Good.
love to lend to us.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. Ryford?
Yes. We move to item F. I'm sorry, we move to item 2. Ordinance appropriating new funds in the amount of $191,524 to Roanoke County Public Schools and authorizing transfer of funds between categories within the Roanoke County Public Schools fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. Susan Peterson, Director of Finance for Roanoke County Public Schools. Welcome, Ms. Peterson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. During the January 30th, 2025 school board work session, I presented several key budget items requiring amendments to the school board's current fiscal year's budget. First, we received $191,524 from Avis Construction Company. This represented an overbilling on the William Byrd High School renovation project that occurred in a prior fiscal year, and so it is not currently in the budget. So we request the appropriation of these funds into the facilities budget category for immediate use this year. Second, I highlighted a critical need to bolster our health insurance reserves. To address this, we request the transfer of $1 million from the instructional category to the non-categorical budget category. This strategic reallocation will improve our capacity to cover healthcare claims. And finally, to ensure optimal use of our resources, we propose a realignment of budget allocations across various functional categories. This includes adjustments between facilities, technology, administrative attendance, and health to reflect actual spending needs. These adjustments are essential for maintaining the financial health and operational effectiveness of our school system and were approved by the school board on February 20th, 2025. I appreciate your attention and support on these matters and can answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance and to schedule the second reading for March 25th, 2020?
I move the motion.
Thank you. Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to submit an amendment to the ordinance that is before us. And what I would suggest is, I think Mr. Lubeck has distributed to each of you a draft ordinance. And if you look at section 1 of that draft ordinance, I would propose an amendment that we would add the language, quote, so that the funds can be used for health insurance purposes, close quote. And I would make that motion to amend the draft ordinance that's before us.
Okay.
I'll second the amendment.
Thank you. And then do I need another second on the, no, I don't?
No, sir.
We're good?
That's fine.
Okay. All right. Is there any discussion on the motion? I have a motion amendment and a second on that amendment. Any discussion?
Could I ask Ms. Peterson some questions? Thank you for the information you provided us, that you provided the school board, I guess back in January. I don't understand the payroll lapse process where it shows that the school board had an extra $4 million. My understanding is the school board has to prepare a budget in February and March. but you really don't know what your contracts are for your teachers till June. And so you need to put in additional dollars. And so that's why you have extra funds in that instructional category. Is that a fair suggestion?
Sort of. We budget every position at the step and grade that we expect to hire folks into. The payroll lapse occurs when folks leave, and one interesting thing about school division payroll is we typically have 90 teachers leave us in a year and 90 teachers coming in. So that's a lot of employees for turnover. So when we adopt our budget, we typically budget our teachers at the midpoint in the scale. If they come in with a lower contract, that creates a lapse for us. If they come in at a higher contract, then that's using up the lapse. And so it just happened with this year, we had a significant lapse in there. There were some other items that led to the lapse. One was overestimating the defined benefit contribution that we would have to make for the hybrid plan. So we just estimated at the highest level, and we did not have employees participate as highly as we expected them to. So there were a couple of different items that we kind of budgeted that did not come to reality.
Okay. And I see that the proposal here before us is 1 million going from that account over to the health insurance fund. And then I think you also were suggesting to the school board to address possible PTO, to address your electricity cost. What's 18 and 19% increase over the last 3 years is shocking. But that leaves the school board with a fairly small amount. Is that going to be a problem?
It is something we are keeping our eye on. It is disconcerting, but we are withholding discretionary spending at this time. So we are making plans to ensure that we have enough at the end of the year.
Okay. And I liked your charts showing the health insurance claims exposure. And I guess the concern I have is even with this $1 million transfer, you're still negative. That's scary. So what's the future hold?
Well, we never know because we are self-insured. So we don't know what we're going to see in the next 3 or 4 months. We could see the claims come down a little bit. We could see them going up a little bit. So we're just kind of, I analyze these. The county finance staff provide me weekly updates on our spending and our claims analysis. And I run these through our projections every week to see kind of where we're going. We currently still are looking to be overspent at the end of this year, but we are taking measures to withhold discretionary spending, like I said, and keep an eye on it. And there's not a lot we can do when we have some seriously sick people on our side.
I guess just looking at your projections, I think the school board's going to be coming back to us next year to address the health insurance fund, if projections go forward as your past has indicated. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
No further
Yeah.
questions.
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment.
Go ahead.
You're aware that the governor has lifted, well, the General Assembly has sent to the governor and lifted the support cap, which means $2.5 million that Roanoke County schools have been paying since about 2009, I believe it was. And that should help in some way for sure, because that normally is what I believe the county would have to pay. In other words, the state didn't fund all those instructional assistants, and so they're trying to give you $2.5 million back in their distribution whenever they get the budget approved in Richmond. So I hope that can help your insurance situation, perhaps. Thank you.
All right. Any other, yes?
Just one quick question. I know with the kind of the gloom and doom looking forward towards health insurance levels, and I heard you talk about the discretionary, that's put on hold. Are there any other measures that will be forthcoming to help boost that account? It is a little troubling just thinking about the future and that account and the unpredictability.
That is true. We are taking a look at different options on our health insurance plan next year, and the school board has a variety of options that they can take a look at. where we have changed premium structures, we have changed our provider network. We're just looking at everything we possibly can.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right. So we have a motion, an amendment, a second. We've discussed it. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes to the amended ordinance.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes to the amended.
Mr. Radford?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Peterson.
Thank you.
Now we move to item F, public hearing. Item 1, public hearing for citizen comments on the real estate effective tax rate for calendar year 2025. Steve Elliott with our budget administrator. Welcome, Mr. Elliott.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Per the Code of Virginia 58.1-3321, when any annual reassessment in the County of Roanoke of real property would result in an increase of 1% or more in the total real property tax levies, excluding new construction, a calculation known as the effective tax rate increase is required to be completed. The County of Roanoke's real property assessments, excluding new construction, increased by 6.97% over the previous year. Therefore, per state code, the county must calculate the effective tax rate increase, advertise the effective tax rate increase, and conduct a public hearing pertaining to the effective tax rate increase. The effective tax rate would be 97.2 cents per $100 of assessed value. The Code of Virginia requires specific language to be included in the advertisement of the effective tax rate. The advertisement was published in the Roanoke Times on Sunday, February 9th, 2025, thereby satisfying state code requirements for public notice. This item is to conduct a public hearing to receive citizen comment on the real estate effective tax rate for calendar year 2025. Staff recommends conducting the public hearing to satisfy the state code requirements and receive citizen comment on the real estate effective tax rate for calendar year 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Any questions for Mr. Elliott before I open the public hearing? Okay. All right, at this time, I will open the public hearing. Now, it looks like we do have some people that have signed up. Anybody else that has walked in, please give them to the clerk. We appreciate all those who are going to come forward today and address the board. When your name is called, please come forward, state your name and address prior to sharing your comments. Each person is permitted to speak for up to 3 minutes. At the front of the podium is a light system. It tells you how much time you have remaining. When the light changes from green to yellow, please share your concluding remarks. And when the light changes from yellow to red, it means your time has ended. So the first one I have up here is, where's the name on here? David Riddle. Are you here? Yeah, please come forward.
Good afternoon, Chairman Radford, members of the board, Ms. Shepherd. I'm David Riddle, 3005 Shaw Owl Road, Mount Pleasant District. I'd like to take this opportunity to talk about property assessments and the resulting impact on real estate taxes. This year, my assessment on property went up 5.89%. Last year's assessment was up 7.51%. For the past 5 years, the total assessment on my property has gone up 32.3%, all driven by a tight housing market after the COVID pandemic, during which housing prices have skyrocketed. By comparison, last year's national inflation rate was only 3%. In talking with Mr. Darrell Shepard in the assessment office, I understand the state code dictates how assessments must be done based on fair market value. But in this volatile housing market, those assessment increases may look good for people wanting to sell, but it hurts homeowners who have no intention of selling by seriously increasing their taxes. It may even force long-term residents to sell if, living on a fixed income, they can no longer afford the tax increases. Several urban communities are driving out low-income residents due to these inflated housing purchases and rental prices. And I'm unfortunately experiencing that with my daughter up in Fredericksburg. I come before you today to ask consideration of 2 issues. First, to adjust the tax rate again this year. I understand you did so last year to partially offset the increased assessments. Second, I'd ask you include in your legislative package for the General Assembly next session in next year, an amendment to the state code to allow counties to cap assessment increases to the overall inflation rate, not just basing the assessments on the fluctuation in the current housing market. I do not envy you members of the board having to balance the need of the sufficient revenue to cover the inflationary pressures of salaries, operations, and maintenance with the taxpayer concerns over higher taxes. Having worked in state government and county services for over 30 years, I appreciate the task before you today. I appreciate your fiscal responsibility in ensuring proper use of tax revenues, and I'm sure there are many Roanoke County taxpayers who have been getting sticker shock recently every year when they open their assessments that come in the mail. We taxpayers, are asking your help in reducing the impact of those assessments on our taxes and in asking the General Assembly for reasonable adjustments to the state code for future assessments. Be glad to answer any questions, and again, thank you for this opportunity to address my concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Riddle. Appreciate your comments. Next speaker I have is Craig Birch.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. This is my first time, so bear with me.
Yeah, fine.
Taxes are really getting to affect a lot of us, especially ones that are on a fixed income. As a veteran, I have a lot of struggles with medical, as well as during the Vietnam War, you didn't have much chance to get a decent job. It took me 10 years just to get a college degree and getting a decent job. But I'm running up against things that I don't have any control over, such as personal property taxes, your vehicle taxes. If I sell my property, you know, there's that capital gains tax that you have to pay. There's several things that have gone up. The electricity has doubled in just 2 months. I mean, that's out of the blue. It just comes up, didn't no warning or nothing. A lot of my dental is not being covered by the VA unless you are, I think, medically having a problem with this, or if you are old, retired, you've spent the 20 years. But otherwise, dental and some of my health is my responsibility. With no increase hardly at all with Social Security, and the government forcing me to take money out now of my savings accounts because of my age, it doesn't leave me with much, and it just gets worse and worse as, you know, I lose a lot of things that I cherished, that I like to do, that I can't do anymore because I can't afford it. And it just gets higher and higher. And I know you're aware of this, but I just like to bring it to your attention again, you know, and just think of the people that are working or not working or just have just a set amount of income to go. And without any kind of increase from government help or a decrease in taxes, we're going to lose our house or anything else that we have. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person I have is Daniel Palmer.
My name is Daniel Palmer, 8418 Barron's Road. Thank you, board, for hearing my comments. Daniel Webster famously said, "The power to tax is the power to destroy." In Roanoke County, our present course is one of destruction. Local governments do not catalyze growth by growing. They deliver excellent essential services and then get out of the way. But Roanoke County is failing in this respect. We have a rec center that costs us more than $500,000 a year, and that's not counting the $1.8 million in debt service on the building and the maintenance, which comes from yet a separate category. While we have a board which ostensibly understands that every dollar unnecessarily taken from the hands of a resident and placed into the hands of a government is an evil infringement on freedom, tax revenues are rising at a rate that vastly outpaces the rise in residents' median income. Since COVID, we're about 12 to 15% above the increase in revenues here in the county. Government in Roanoke County now takes significantly greater share of resident incomes than it did 5 years ago, and the population remains the same. To be sure, there are many forces outside of our control, but the board needs to control what it can for the good of its tax-paying residents. The board in micro needs to show the Commonwealth and the watching world what's possible when you stop charting a course based on what government can or wants to do and start charting a course based on what promotes the most freedom and best rewards responsible living, innovation, and calculated risk-taking right here in Roanoke County. Why not imagine a future when sales, food, tourism, and sin taxes are enough to fund the necessary functions of our local government, and the local government has no need to assess the value of its residents' properties, which is really none of government's business anyway. As Thomas Jefferson said, the real wants of the people ought never give way to the imaginary wants of the state, or in this case, the county. Now, I fully recognize the board cannot restructure revenue collection and maximize financial freedom overnight, but this board has been given a special moment in history. You are like-minded, freedom-loving citizens and residents. I urge you to seize this moment and bring significant paradigm-shifting improvements to our county. Why not see the meteoric rise in revenues from real estate taxes as an opportunity to begin a fundamental shift in how we view and fund our government? Due to the rise in real estate revenues, you could chart a more limited and efficient path right now without enduring the levels of temporary pain that often come with such a change. You could put the county on a much better freedom-loving footing by cutting the real estate tax significantly. History and my children will thank you. This will require a return to doing what government should do and not doing what they shouldn't. As Robert Heinlein said, there's no worse tyranny than to force a man to pay for what he does not want merely because you think it would be good for him. So I conclude with a question and a request. What areas of our local government have been pared back since 2020? Can you name one? My family and most families in the county have had to make several significant adjustments to maintain a balanced budget. Should not our government be required to do the same? And a request. Let's stop cutting mere pennies in the real estate tax as assessments skyrocket. It's long past time to cut a dime. A 9.6% rate reduction in the real estate tax rate and an effective tax cut of about 2%. This would not fully align the county's recent growth in revenue with the wage growth in the county, but it would be a strong start. It's time to give back a dime, 94 cents per $100 and no more. It's time to do hard things for the good of your residents, for freedom, for fiscal sanity in the county, and for the glory of God. In the county, our population has not grown, but our government is growing faster than resident incomes. This is anti-growth, it's anti-freedom, and it is not the Roanoke County way. I urge you, our board, to ask good, hard questions of our county administrators and govern like you want a county that works for its people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Plummer. I have no other speakers signed up, so at this time I will close.
David, we got,
I'm sorry.
It was about the taxes, so.
I've got you in a, yeah, I've got you in another section.
thank you, sorry.
Yeah,
Anybody else want to talk about taxes? Ask them.
yeah. Anybody here else want to talk about that didn't sign up? Okay, and hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and move to item G, appointments. Do any board members have any appointments that have not been given to the clerk and included in the board report for agenda item G? Okay, and hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the list of appointments set forth in the board report?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes. We move to item H, the consent agenda. All the matters listed under the consent agenda are considered by the board to be routine and will be enacted by one resolution in the form or forms listed below. If discussion is desired, That item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Does any board member wish to remove any item from the consent agenda for discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt all the matters in the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move the approval of the 2 items in our consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes. Now we move to item I, citizens' comments and communications. This time has been set aside for Roanoke County citizens, Roanoke County property owners, county business owners to address the board on matters of interest or concern. While the board desires to hear from all who speak, this item is limited to a duration of 30 minutes. Each speaker shall be afforded 3 minutes to speak. And so far, I have one that wants to address the board. We appreciate all that have come forward today. When your name is called, please come forward, state your name and address prior to addressing your comments. Like I mentioned before, we have a light system that tells you how much time you have. When the light changes from green to yellow, please conclude your remarks, and your time is ended when the light changes to red. While the board desires to hear everybody, please refrain from repeating comments made by others. So I have one speaker, Chad Clark. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Chad Clark, 3842 Bandy Road. I'm here today because I'm a lifelong resident of Roanoke County and, more importantly, Mount Pleasant, of which I've been heavily involved in the Neighborhood Watch program for the last 2 years. My original intention was to send this as an email to Roanoke County Police Chief Poindexter, but instead I want to plead my case for more help for my community here in an open forum to hopefully get my community the attention it deserves, because I truly want to believe that better times are ahead of us and not behind us. Closing on 2 years now, I became involved in the Neighborhood Watch program due to items being stolen from my and my neighbor's property. We have worked very hard in those 2 years, as originally meetings were not well attended. In fact, the first one I attended was myself plus 3 others and the police resource officer. Over the last 2 years, we have worked really hard. We now average 30, and had as many as almost 50 in attendance. We even had the Vinton Messenger do an article on us, so what we're doing is working. In that 2 years, we worked to do a lot better for community. We've all gotten an education by many of our guest speakers who have attended our meetings, most notably Commonwealth Attorney Hollahan, Sheriff Orange, Police Resource Officers Benton and Forehand, of course Tammy on the board here. The education we received, we then passed on to the rest of the community via the Mount Pleasant Facebook page. And that brings me to the reason why I'm here. While we do understand that Roanoke County Police Department is a data-driven department, and I'm positive that in the last 2 years, Roanoke County Police Department has seen a greater volume of calls, it does not reflect the true state of our community. And the reasons why is something that doesn't go back 2 years, but rather goes back a decade plus in some circumstances. And that is a lot of people have simply lost faith in leadership. I feel I have a very unique perspective in the community because being involved in the Neighborhood Watch program, I'm always trying to recruit more people to become part of it and work together to better our community. While I thought it'd be an easy sell, it hasn't. This is why. People unfortunately think that calling does nothing. It's their perception that nothing has changed and that nothing will change. And from despite our best efforts over the past 2 years, our situation seems worse now than when we started. The other reason is simply fear. Fear of repercussions from career criminals for their neighbors. Can you imagine being a mom who leaves work every day to get her kids off the school bus safely? Can you imagine being a parent who no longer allows their kids to go in the woods because of fear of needles, drug paraphernalia, and drug addicts being in the woods? Can you imagine living next door to drug dealers and the nonstop vehicle and foot traffic coming and going? Can you imagine living in a community where criminals have more rights than you do? And that is why the numbers you look on paper will never represent what truly goes on in our community. If we're not careful, what Southeast Roanoke City problems today will become Mount Pleasant problems tomorrow. I think the recent murder on Yellow Mountain Road, which is 1.6 miles from my house, shows that there are no longer safe spaces, no longer safe zones. It happened there. Unfortunately, it will happen here if nothing is done. I'm not here to point any fingers. I'm here because I love my community, and unfortunately, I don't have the answers to all the problems that we face. What I am asking for is looking for help from my community. Thank you.
Thanks, Chad.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. We move to item J, reports. Is there a motion to receive and file reports that have been included with the agenda under item J?
Move the motion.
Thank you. I'll
Second.
second that motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not hearing any. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes. We move to item K, reports and inquiries of board members. Mr. Mahoney, you're first.
Mr. Kaywood, I have two inquiries of you when you have some time. I know you're in the middle of budget. When we had our work session with respect to capital improvements plan, I overlooked asking you, when you get a chance, could you let us know status of the discussions with, I think, Roanoke City and Salem on the regional fire training facility? I think we had 5.7 million allocated to that, and I know that there's been some negotiations to try to renovate or expand that facility. So if you get a chance, you kind of let us know on that. And then secondly, refresh my recollection, when the school board has to submit its budget to us, I think by the end of this month, does that also include their capital improvements plan, or does that come later?
I believe it does. Yeah, it's a full budget.
So it's part of the budget when they submit it to us by the end of the month? Okay, thank you. Nothing else, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mahoney. Ms. Shepherd.
I don't have a lot today, other than I would like to thank Chad Clark for coming in. I just want everybody to know how many long hours and how tirelessly he has worked for the Mount Pleasant community. And he does more things than Neighborhood Watch. He has a food pantry set up for the kids at Mount Pleasant Elementary. Him and another citizen by the name of Carla Pickerel also have a food pantry for the elderly. So he has worked very hard, and since he is here, I just wanted to recognize him and thank him for all the hard work that he does. And that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. Mr. North.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last Friday, Chair Radford and I toured Glen Cove with School Board Vice Chair Brent Hudson. As you know, Glen Cove is one of two elementary schools in a remodeling program right now, from open classroom concept to individual classrooms. And I will tell you this, those individual classrooms are really looking nice now. And they're going about this in a pragmatic way. We met with the construction superintendent as well as the principal, and it's really going to be a nice school, almost like brand new when it's finished. And hopefully it will address the needs of the students and staff so that the learning continues on a stronger path with closed classrooms instead of the open classroom concept. And I'm sure we'll get around to touring the other schools in time. I think tomorrow the CTE is the next tour, but I don't see much to look at this time other than some footers in the ground, so I'm going to wait until there's more to look at. Thank you very much.
Okay. Ms. Hooker.
I've just got a couple of items, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The first thing is I want to congratulate Glenvar High School swim team. They are the new state champions.
Wow.
So we'll have some more visitors coming, I hope, soon, and we'll probably need some assistance from staff in arranging that. I want to send out a special shout out to Ashley King, because once again, she has delivered with a problem situation and rectified it. It was truly above and beyond. Thank you, Ashley. And then the last thing, Mr. Chairman, is to wish you happy birthday. Today is your day.
Thank you.
And we appreciate all you do for us. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right. I've got a few things to talk about. Just want to thank Mr. North for filling in for me last couple of weeks ago. I missed our board meeting to a business trip. But that business trip was about housing. So got a great deal of information. Unfortunately, Mr. Palmer that talked about the cost, or one of them talked about the cost, a couple of them. The cost for housing does continue to go up, and we saw that at our convention. And it's something that we're trying to fight the best we can with the tools we have in the private industry and government-wise. One other announcement I want to make. We've got a Route 419 Safety and Pedestrian Improvement Community Program that is going to have an open house style meeting March the 13th in 2 days from 5 to 7 p.m. at Oak Grove Elementary School. We'll have staff there. Assume VDOT might be there, but we'll be talking about sidewalks between Grandin Road Extension and Glen Heather Drive. We'll be talking about restricted crossing U-turns at Glen Heather Drive and Stony Brook Drive. And we'll talk about and we'll show stuff on pedestrian signals with crosswalks at 419 Postal Drive and Route 419 on Brambleton Avenue. So if you have a moment to come to that, we'd like to have you attend that meeting. Now I'll move to item L, work sessions. The first work session will be to discuss the Opioid Abatement Authority Spring 2025 grant application. Madeline Hanlon and Josh Fridley will handle that work session. Then we'll have a second work session to discuss the county's exploration and implementation of AI-based systems. And it's Uma Marquez, our Information Technology Director, and Jim Blanton, our Director of Library Services, will handle that work session. Momentarily, the board will recess to the third floor for the work sessions. However, doing so, I'd like to move that the board go into a closed session upon the completion of those work sessions. So, which leads me to item M, closed session pursuant to the Code of Virginia. I move to go into closed session pursuant to Code Section 2.2, 3711A, 5 of the Code of Virginia for discussion concerning a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the communities. Specifically, the board will discuss potential business location or expansion in the Catawba Magisterial District. Do I have a second for this motion?
Second.
Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes, at this time, the board will now recess to the third floor for the work session and closed session.
Has said it will allow member states to set up migrant return centres outside the bloc as EU members push for a tougher stance on immigration. The EU Commissioner for Migration, Magnus Brunner, said the bloc was creating the legal framework, not creating the content. Under the plan, asylum seekers could be sent to holding centres in non-EU countries while their cases are assessed.